Yeah.
This is the GMS Magazine podcast, or maybe I should call it the So Play We All podcast, because today, in particular, my friends, is going to be all about board games and the people who make them. I am Paco Garcia, your host.
This is Chris Diaz from DSX Machina.
Hello, Chris. How are you doing?
I was good. I was good. I don't know if you've seen my wall recently. I made a couple of posts, and I think that was one of the reasons why we were talking about the fact that a certain person unfriended me. And it was a very simple conversation. I wasn't talking about AI specifically, but I was talking about human nature, and I talked about the fact that our society, there are certain things that we kind of allow ourselves to get by, like certain things that like there's theft everywhere. So whenever people talk about theft, I'm like, look, I'm as conscious and as receptive to someone being stolen from as much as the next person, and I can see why people are angry. But then I start asking questions. Then the problem is that whenever I ask questions and I say, hey, what about this? Right? It seems like the person's response is not to engage me. It's more about personal attacks. They delete my comments if I'm posting on their wall, and if it's on my wall and they see it, they unfriend me. So the last one I had was if you're on this boat of generative systems being theft and you decry and you are absolutely believe that anybody who even touches generative system is akin to a thief and a criminal. And I'm like, okay, fine. Well, do you use a torrent site? Have you ever listened to music you didn't pay for? Right. And if you get past that, do you use an ad blocker? I'll lower that volume. Do you use an ad blocker? Do you use uh, VPN to bypass geo restrictions? Do you shop at Superstore or Walmart? Because they are incredibly guilty for horrific thieving practices and how they treat people. How about, do you pay for Spotify? And I said the problem with human nature wants to attack something new while the fleecing we're all used to drifts by without outrage. And I said, if you feel you're being robbed by a system, you have to look at all the other systems you employ that ultimately take money from others. And ultimately, we're all basically stealing from someone. And it's okay to get angry and point fingers, but be aware of who's stealing the most. And our situation that we're all in is because of the big fleece, the big theft that's occurring. And it's a little frustrating. I can put my headphones on so I can actually hear you and not get distracted by the volume. That everyone's guilty. I'm guilty, and I think that we need to understand it. And then after that, I made a post about self checkouts. I don't know if you have self checkout systems going up where you are.
In some places, we do have them, yes.
Yeah, here they're everywhere. Every single big company, like the small home, like the small places, like they obviously don't. But all the big, the superstores, the Targets, the WalMarts, all the grocery stores, they all have them. No one forces us to use them. And someone says, "Well, they are." I go, "No, no, no, they're not. If you looked at a grocery store, you could choose to use the checkout. You could all say, if there's 10 feet of self checkout and no one's using them, they will get rid of them, right? It's not. Someone says, "Well, there's a place that has it's all just self checkout," and I'm like, "That's not true. There is always going to be an actual checkout. Maybe there's no one there. Yes, you are. You go there and you ask someone to go to the checkout because you don't want to use the machines. It's not like the building is empty. There's someone that will work it. If you ignore that system, they will eventually get rid of them because it costs them money. But they made that attempt and they looked at it and said people use them. At my local Walmart, the self checkout was about 6 stations, and people used it so much they expanded it to 12 stations, and now it's almost the majority of that section is that self checkout because the vast majority of people use them.
Okay.
If we all collectively said no, they would go away. So do we blame the existence on the self checkout machines, or do we blame human nature? Do we blame Walmart for making the system, or is it
Yes.
really ultimately our fault
No, it is.
for
It is.
choosing them?
It is a mix of both. I don't think there is any one-sided about it. Of course, it is partly our fault, and of course, it is partly Walmart's fault. Um, the problem with self-checkout is not really the self-checkout at all. It's the fact that for every 10 machines, there's only going to be one person. So they're saving a huge amount of money, but we as customers don't get any benefit apart part. And I have to say, I have used self checkouts.
Oh yeah, so do I. I'm not
Okay.
pointing fingers by it.
No, no, no,
It's
no,
more
no.
about
I
asking
understand.
questions.
I
Yeah.
understand. But I have used them when I am in a rush because I have to say my time is also valuable because I only have certain amount of time during the day. So sometimes if I have to wait the queue, then I will go to the checkout because I am in a rush. The system knows that. The supermarket knows that. And that's why self checkouts exist. Would we be able to combat that somehow? Absolutely, yes. Of course we could. But it's just not going to happen. It's simple, as
Yeah.
simple as that. Now, to go back at whether that is comparable with using AI or not, it's a different matter altogether. I don't think they're the same. They're on the same boat. Okay. Firstly, because with AI, and I am very cautious. We have spoken about this in the past for many, many times. I am very cautious about how I speak about AI right now because it is too delicate a topic to be able to have a reasonable conversation about it with everyone because people get too passionate. And I can understand that. I
Yeah.
acknowledge that. And therefore, I don't want to hurt anybody. So I try not to talk about the topic at all. There are still many incognita about AI. Do people think it is theft? Is it technically theft? We don't know yet until there's been some thorough investigation that goes through court and a decision is made. The fact is that we don't know. We can consider that it is, but some people will say, well, you're not because of the way it works is blah, blah, blah. Whether we need to expand the meaning and the concept of theft remains to be seen. Whether it will be universally changed to encompass AI, it remains to be seen. Whether this fear of AI will disappear in a year or two and, like it happened with digital photography and things will settle, time will tell. We don't know. So for that reason, I personally am staying away from using AI, regardless of my feelings about it or my opinions about it. I don't want me using AI to hurt anybody else. So,
Yeah.
because I don't have a need for it. I am not publishing books, and it's a matter of either using AI or not publishing, which I know
Yeah.
some people are in that boat. It's not that for me. So I am choosing not to use it. Am I judging people who do? Sometimes. If you can afford to pay an artist and you still use AI, I am going to very sternly frown upon you because WTF. If
Yeah.
it's truly that you can't, then okay, but stop doing it as soon as you possibly can. Again, regardless of whether there is something wrong with using AI or not, just because that could be hurting people. So let's not hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Ultimately, it's a technology and a knowledge, and we get to decide what we want to do with it. And what I keep on asking is like, how do we adapt? Like, because like we've never been able to regulate a technology or advancement way. So how do we adapt? And that's all I ask people. How are we going to adapt? How, as creators, are we going to work within the system?
I think
my life is threatened by ChatGPT, and I found ways to implement it in my arsenal. And I said I will not use generative visual systems to create artwork as a means of circumventing artists. I have said that. That was my official statement. I got to war with two people, one very specifically, because I simply said, I won't employ those systems in my arsenal, but I won't judge artists that use it in their toolbox, because I'm paying you for a service and I see something that's reflective of your art style. I don't really need to know what's in the soup. I want the dish.
Okay.
I don't really care how you get there if it's reflective. And this is, of course, reflective of if I see an artist who's established and I see their artwork and I see two images and you were to tell me that one of those he generated with AI and the other one he didn't, how can I tell if he's a good artist? I'm not going to know. If they're a good artist, I'm not going to know. But ultimately, if I did know, why would I need to know? And why would that affect my decision on whether or not I employ this person?
The thing, I don't have an answer for that, because I think what's going to happen with AI is that eventually, regardless of how the whole thing progresses and settles, I think there are going to be different fields of people who decide to do something or other. There will be people who say, I am never going to use AI. I am only going to work with people who don't use AI. And that's going to be fine. As in fine, I mean acceptable. That's just the way you want to do it. There are going to be people who will say, I will only use AI, the way that you're doing it, and that will have to be accepted. And then there are going to be people who will say, I will do whatever the bloody hell I want, and I don't give a shit about anything else, and that will have to be accepted. Whether it is acceptable or not, I don't know, but it will have to be accepted. What I'm trying to say is that eventually companies and individuals are going to settle as to what kind of tools they want to use. Just like there are some artists who refuse to use anything else other than physical paints, whereas some artists would refuse to use physical paints. Just as there are some people who would refuse to buy art that is not painted physically. So there's just going to be a different market. Whether it's going to be a healthy one or not, I don't know. I really don't know. We don't know if AI is going to be able to be used in every single country in the same way. We don't know because, for instance, right now, the European community is getting together the first draft to legislate AI. The likelihood is that by the time that draft comes out and becomes law, AI will be ahead of that law, and it will need to be revised time and time again, because that's what happens.
And ultimately, how in the world are you going to be able to tell? If people are like, oh, it's easy to spot AI, I'm like, no, you can't.
Exactly.
And whenever if someone says they think they can, like, you haven't been paying attention.
And that is why I keep telling people, and I have received a massive amount of criticism for this. This is why I keep telling people you need to get to understand and know how it works, because otherwise you will never know or understand when you have AI in front of you. And I don't mean that you need to learn to use it and use it in your work, but unless you understand how it works, you will never fucking know. Get over that.
People love making summary judgment. And when we were seeing it right now, that we're recording this podcast, we're obviously seeing the news, what's going on with in Israel, Palestine, Hamas, and no one has asked my opinion, and my opinion is I am not going to make an opinion. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to weigh in on this. But beyond the fact that the subject is a complete minefield, but I was reading and watching so many educational done by authorities, by people who know what they're talking about, and even I'm looking at going, holy crap! I'm even more sure I don't want to weigh in on it now. But the fact that so many people do shows the fact that I'm like, because I have friends who are very, very devout Jewish, and they're talking, and everything that they're talking about is in support of Israel and what's going on with them. And then I see videos and posts from people that are talking about this is a two-state solution, and we need to find a way to give these people a state. And you look at the history, and the history is
Sorry, keep going.
so.
I'm just going to close the window.
Okay, and the history is people like, and someone said it best way. It was just like, this is a 1,000-year-old conflict. No, it's actually only about 60 years with recent events. Like I said, it is 100 years old. It is entirely political, and you point the finger squarely at Britain for basically starting a good chunk of why this happened. And there's still so much I don't know. There's so much to read about. But that's the same thing with, I don't want to get into that topic, but it's the same thing with AI. I think people don't know enough, and they're just taking the opinions of others and then jumping on the bandwagon. And for me, my final point, because I don't want to waste too much time on this, is that I just refuse to vilify people at my level or below my level that are looking to these generative systems and try to find a way to be competitive against a marketplace of people that are throwing millions of dollars. So if someone says, we have to prompt up this publisher for using AI art in his adventure, I'm like, he has 5 adventures that are worth $3 on Drive-Thru RPG. There are so much bigger fish to fry. Like, why are you going for people around us? There are so many people guilty of much bigger fleeces in our economy. Things that are affecting you way more than this guy using AI art.
I don't know. I think you need to ask those people. But again, I understand why they're angry. I understand why people are scared. I get it. And that's why I've taken my stance of keeping away from AI. Again, not because knowing what I know about the technology, I have a strong opinion one way or another. And to be perfectly honest, and again, people may hate me for saying this, but generative artwork is the smallest of my worries when it's about AI. The smallest. Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. If that is all that worries people about AI, I'm sorry, humans, you are being incredibly naive. Incredibly naive.
Yeah. It's almost like, oh, thank God, something horrific is happening in the world. We can stop talking about AI for a little bit because there's actually more important things for us to talk about.
No, it's not just that, which are as well, but the fact that there are tools, AI-driven based tools or machine learning, whatever you want to call it. I don't give a monkeys about the moniker that you use to describe this technology. It really doesn't matter either. AI, and everybody knows what we mean. There are tools out there so horrifically terrifying that are getting so much better that Midjourney is a walk in the park. And I am not saying that Midjourney, DALL-E, or whatever don't have their issues. They do. There's been a case recently in Spain where somebody has already been prosecuted because he took photographs of 2 little girls from a Facebook page, took them to an AI, and generated images of those 2 little girls, but naked.
I didn't know that was even possible. I thought their filters prevented that sort of thing from happening.
Except that you can install your AI in your computer and feed it with whatever it is you want to.
Interesting.
As I said, Midjourney is not the biggest problem at all. And
well, for me, but one of the programs that I saw, I was looking at Corridor Crew on YouTube, and they were talking about, and they were excited about this. Some of these programs, one of them is you can take a face, and the face swapping software has always been relatively. It's very complex. You need if you want to do it on your machine, it's long training. It takes hours and hours on a high-end machine. And now there's a website. You just throw it in, and in 5 minutes later, you have a perfect recreation. And I'm like, oh, that's not terrifying.
And that is the point. That's my point. One of the sessions that we do for one of our clients includes a deepfake that was created of Lola Flores. Lola Flores is possibly one of our most international artists and by far the best flamenco dancer, singer that we've ever had in Spain. And she died a few years ago. And this beer brand literally recreated her face and her voice to make this advert. We have seen that with Carrie Fisher in the Star Wars films. We saw a massive backlash when a Hollywood studio wanted to use the very face of Dean Martin to do a second part of one of his films. And this is the thing. That advert I was mentioning with Lola Flores took the company 9 months to make, and it was just 20 seconds. That was 2 years ago.
And now you can do that.
2 years ago. And now you can almost do that in real time. There are programs out there that you can take a clip of the voice of somebody, you put your own voice, and it will make your voice sound like this to perfection. It's only going to be a matter of time, and not a lot of time, that happens in real time. So
Yeah.
you will be able to get a call from your wife who is doing something completely different. Okay, considering that, at least in Spain, I'm not going to talk about anybody else's statistics because I don't know what it's like in other countries, but I would venture to say it's the same. Considering that the young and the elderly are the two main victims of online scams, imagine if somebody called an 80-year-old woman pretending to be their daughter or their son, brother-in-law, whoever, their husband, and said, which is happening, I've been detained in this place when I was returning from holiday. I need to pay a 400 euro fine. Can you please send it to me so I can, I will pay you back when I get returned because they have confiscated my wallet. Somebody I know, their parents, lost 900 euros to that scam.
That seems low. I've heard, unfortunately, I've heard of worse.
Okay.
Much bigger.
So when that happens, we are going to have a much, much bigger issue than that. We are seeing machine learning programs that are being trained to interview people to get into some positions in some companies, because sometimes you get so many applicants for a job that you cannot interview 130 or 140 or 200 people. So there are going to be machines who are going to screen those people by doing an interview with them in real time by voice.
My favorite one was there's an AI, I can't remember the name now because I think I blocked it, that producers can run their scripts through. And it'll tell them how much that film will cost, how much it'll make, and whether or not it's a viable script.
Largo.
Largo, thank you. I think I did block that from memory. And the hilarious thing is that that person that attacked me in my last post, he claimed that system didn't exist.
It does.
And so I'm like, oh, it does. I can show you one of these days. Maybe if you have time, I'll show you the report on one of my scripts that was submitted. That I was given a Largo report from a producer, and I was looking at him like, this is pathetic. Like even beyond the annoyance of the system, it's actually a bad system. It did not take ethnicity into account for the actors, for example. I submitted the script into ChatGPT and asked it to do it. It made a much better, intelligent response. It was actually quite creative, but this Largo system was the actor choices were so bad. To give you an example, one of the actors it suggested was Tommy Wiseau.
I don't even know who that is.
Tommy Wiseau is an actor-director that's famous for directing what is considered the single worst film in the history of cinema. It's called The Room. The film is so bad and so notoriously awful that Seth Rogen wrote and I think directed a movie. I know he wrote the film that got critical acclaim, and they literally made a film about this film because it's considered to be so bad, and it's called The Disaster Artist. It's actually an amazing film, and it's about the making of what is considered the worst film ever made. It's the same thing with the fact that Tim Burton did a film on Ed Wood, who was considered the worst director of all time, until Tommy Wiseau came out. He's a horrific actor and an absolutely insanely. He's probably certifiably insane.
Wow.
But he's insane enough and eccentric enough that they made a movie about him.
Well,
but that's So Tommy Wiseau, it's one of the worst people you could have imagined. It would have recommended. When I saw Tommy Wiseau, I was like, well, this is a horrific system.
So anyway, to start wrapping up this topic, because we could go on
let's
forever,
get on
and we are not going to get to any conclusions. The only thing I would say is time will tell an awful lot of things, and humans, if you are going to use AI, do it very carefully and do it understanding exactly what you're doing. And those of you who are against it, please try to truly understand how it works. Don't stay at just a blog post or a YouTube video or a Facebook post, please, please, please read some technical articles about it. The entry-level ones are easy enough to understand. You don't need to go too deep into it. But please, 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 I beg you, understand how the technology works, because it is not as simple as just stealing. It's way more subversive than that. So please look into that. So that's all I have to say on the topic. So shall we move on?
All right, I'm going to lay back and just talk about. Let's talk about am I considered the greatest board game you have ever posted? Gay sauna. Let's talk about that. No, let's talk about everything. Well, the queerest tabletop RPG.
Okay, well, I will get to that. I mean, yes, humans. It exists a game called Gay Sauna, and I had no idea that that game had been crowdfunded in Kickstarter.
How much did it make?
$30,000.
That's admirable. Same amount I made for a wine game.
Considering that Kickstarter pushes anything with any even hint of sexual content all the way to the bottom and doesn't show it to anyone unless you have specifically the link. The fact that they got there is just absolutely amazing. But people may be wondering where I saw this, and of course, it was at Spiel, where I was last week. Spiel 2023 has actually been pretty amazing and even a little bit emotional. If I ask you, who would you say the most powerful woman in the world of board game is, who would you say?
Powerful woman.
Mm-hmm. Or influential. Let's say influential, not powerful. This is a nasty word. Influential.
Okay, based on like this basic, just general knowledge, I would assume it would be Elizabeth Hargrave.
Yeah, no.
I knew that answer was wrong, by the way. I knew that answer was wrong, but that was literally the only name I could think of.
Okay, this is going to be controversial for some people. But as far as I'm concerned, and this is something that I came to the realization when I was at Spiel this year, I think the most influential woman in the world of board games over the last 20-odd years has been Dominique Metzler. You probably don't even know who she is.
It sounds almost familiar, but continue going.
Dominique Metzler, up until last year, almost single-handedly managed the organization of Spiel for over 20 years.
Well, there you go.
And she took over her father, who started the convention.
Right.
So this woman, who barely anybody knows the name of, has been the one who has enabled and facilitated for people to be coming to Europe and year after year after year after year growing this exhibition so gamers and games can come to one place. Every single year, because of the exhibition trade show that she organized, hundreds, if not thousands of games have been released. So, yeah, I'm going to say Elizabeth Hargrave is a very positive, very powerful, very influential force in the world of board games. And she certainly is a role model that an awful lot of designers should look up to. But she has made a handful of games. Dominique has enabled for literally thousands upon thousands of games to have a platform where they could be released. So I'm really sorry to say, but as far as I'm concerned, there isn't anyone, no man or woman, perhaps David Atkinson would be matching there with Gen Con. But I think Dominic is by far the most influential person in board games in my generation. Because without her, maybe somebody else might have done it. I don't know if they would have done it so well or so badly, but the fact is that it was her who did it. And I knew when I first got into Spiel, and that was in 2011, there were two people running that show. She was the main one, and she had an assistant. That's it.
Wow.
So, yeah, and it was emotional because she has deservedly retired. So
Oh,
she is no longer running the show. But Spiel started with a press conference on the Wednesday, and the first thing they did was to pay homage to her, and they projected a few clips of her giving a little bit of a speech, and I think everybody there had a lump in our throats. It was truly emotional, and it was that thing that, wow, she's gone through so much, she's done so much, and barely anyone outside the people who, trade shows who come to Spiel, gamers out there know her name.
well, for example, when you think about, and that's unfortunately an issue we have with a lot of things where we kind of don't put enough power and don't recognize, like we talk about the most powerful men in industries, and we kind of forget, like, if most people know who, like, one of the most powerful women in Hollywood generally is Oprah Winfrey.
Mhm.
Right. And she has a gigantic empire. She's in the top 100 most powerful women, more powerful people of all time. She's on the list. But a lot of people don't realize that the name is Shara Redstone or Dana Walden. Like, people don't know these names.
No.
Jennifer Salke. Right, and people go, I have no idea who those are. Well, that's the chairman of Viacom, the chairman of entertainment, Walt Disney, and the head of Amazon Studios. Mm-hmm. People don't know that. Like, they think of Taylor Swift, and they're like, yeah, Taylor Swift is good, but
yeah, she could be crushed by any of these three, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing that we always think about the game designers when we think about board games and the designers and the people who are influential within the world of board games. But we don't think about the people who organize the exhibitions, the trade shows, the conventions that enable those games to become influential.
Yeah.
And I think we should try and give those people a nudge and celebrate them a lot more, and definitely celebrate Dominique. I don't think anybody can thank her enough for all the work that she did over the years. So anyway, Spiel now belongs or has gone to the company that also organizes the toy fair in Nuremberg, which is even larger than Spiel. But it's because they have toys, not just
of course
games. So
of course,
wow, we're talking Lego and Playmobil and Hasbro and Mattel and God knows how many other toy companies out there that I don't know, because I am a 50-year-old man who doesn't play with toys anymore. Though some people will disagree that I don't.
Well, that's a you problem.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that is huge. So the show has gone into their hands. So a few nice additions that we have seen, for instance, the exhibition, the press conference now is bilingual. In the past, it used to be German alone. So Martin and I would go there and say, oh, how nice. Oh, they give us free Coca-Cola. Thank you. So, but now they do it in a bigger place. There was a huge amount of press. Massive. You're photographing things.
Keep talking.
Okay, I'll keep talking. It's a lot more press in a much nicer place, better environment, I have to say, and bilingual. So I think for that alone, I should say to the company organizing this, Dankeschön. It's really appreciated. It made the whole thing a lot more accessible, a lot more enjoyable. I don't know how many visitors they had. They had a minimum of 189,000 forecast. and they were expecting to go over the 209,000, which is their largest number ever, and that was in 2019, so pre-COVID pandemic. So I don't know if they've gone over that. I need to check it, but that's what it is. They have also reorganized the halls. So before you will have to go.
Oh, the halls. Okay, sorry.
What did I say?
Reorganize the holes.
The halls. You know, Spiel has several halls which are huge things with loads and loads of people, and now they have divided them in different categories. Oops, sorry. So they had family games, hobby and expert games, trading card games, role-playing games. First time that they have such a emphasis on them, even though they always used to have a little bit of space for RPGs in places, but it was never really the focus. Miniature games, accessories, they had an artist alley, which wasn't very big. The prototype gallery, that actually I didn't get to go, and it was pretty good. And then the manufacturer, they did have a massive Gamma party on the Saturday, which I was invited to, but I didn't get to go. And then the food court, which this year was amazing. They actually had good coffee. And that, for a trade show that's meant to be serving 200,000 people, ain't easy. Really, it is not easy. I can hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, I was going to say that. Yeah, I'm not. I'll trust your opinion. I'm not a coffee guy.
Well, I am.
There must be amazing beer. There has to be amazing beer.
No, well, they showed some just bottled beer, nothing really amazing. But anyway, so overall, the organization of the show seemed to be an awful lot better. I know that some people have some complaints about it, but then some people are always going to have. Some halls, the ones that I frequented, were very airy, and we didn't have a ridiculous amount of people. But I know, for instance, the family, the very popular games, the Hall 3, which was the biggest they occupied this year, it was brutal. It was really hard to go in there. Minus points for the novelty room. Every year they used to have a little space, not so little, but a space, where people releasing games could ask for a table, and they would be able to showcase the game to the press before the show. That used to be fantastic because you would be able to walk around and take a look at everything. So, if you missed something, or somebody was coming at last moment and you didn't get a chance to realize, you get to see things and you get to ask people some questions. So it's a very good thing to actually plan ahead what you want to take a look at. This year was in a much smaller space. The space between tables was so narrow that you could not have two people side by side taking a look at the game and walk through. So Martin and I felt so claustrophobic that we lasted 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it was that bad. It was absolutely horrible. We hated it. That needs to be a lot bigger, way bigger. And the thing is that there is plenty of space for it to be bigger. So I have no idea why they didn't make it so big, or if simply they'd underestimated how many people were going to come to the show as press, because that was only accessible to the press. So that is a minus point as far as I'm concerned. So for me personally, Martin and I did 35 interviews in 4 days.
How many did you do last year?
I think we did more than that, but only...
You did less this year then?
Sorry?
You did less this year than last year?
Yes, but this year we were more focused in fewer companies. Okay, and to be perfectly honest, Martin and I wanted to have time for ourselves.
And understandably so. This is a fantastic event. I mean, it's one of those situations where you kind of want to enjoy yourself.
And it is exhausting. It is very tiring, not just to be walking around, but I know that people scoff at me when I say this, but to be interviewing people all the time, and for Martin to be carrying the camera all day long. At one day, he was trying to pour some water in a glass and his hand was shaking because of the amount of time that he had been carrying the camera.
Oh yeah, those things. I trust me. If you're seeing cameramen Their arms are iron.
Exactly. So I decided that we were going to do one interview per hour, except, and of course, you see companies that immediately you become interested in, and you ask them, and then you interview them another time. Of course, there are companies who have more than one game, so you do more than one interview with them. So the 20 interviews that I had planned, 5 a day, suddenly this company has 3 games, then that company has 2 games, then blah, 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 blah. Then, oh, why don't you come? Could you please? Because then you see another game and you think, oh, fucking hell, this looks absolutely amazing. I need to take a look at this. And boom, 35 interviews with a big roll, sometimes asking people around them what they thought. So anyway, it was super busy. Highlights. Well,
Before we get to so people who are interested, Bob, are we going to see these videos pop up eventually on GMS over the next few weeks, right?
Upside, yes, in So Play Wheel, yes, absolutely,
Good.
absolutely. They will be coming this coming Saturday. Martin and I will be going to the studio, and over the next week, Martin will start, publishing these interviews, of which are going to be a shit ton of them. So,
And is Gason a part of those interviews?
no, no, because but don't worry about it, because I have a surprise about Gason.
Right.
Okay, so, and trust me, it's a big surprise. I don't think I've told anybody about this in Facebook yet. So
Okay.
this is going to be an exclusive, and probably I can even show you. Yes, I will be able to show you what their next game is going to be. Okay, but before that, of the people I interviewed, Interhuman Studios, look out for them. They have a game that they came out with in GameFound called Rats in the Wall. I think they're from Croatia, if I remember correctly. And
that's an H.P. Lovecraft story, isn't it?
It is. That's correct. Yes. Now, why am I interested in this game? All of the H.P. Lovecraft games that I have seen thus far usually involve some sort of monster that you either have to avoid or defeat.
Pretty commonplace.
This one does not. It doesn't have a monster, and it does not have conflict.
Fascinating.
So what it plays with is with a paranoia of what are the other players going to be doing. This is an adult game, and it is an adult game because it deals with suicide, drug, and alcohol addiction, because those 3 things are going to be elements of what drives your insanity one way or another. So
I really like those kind of games. I mean, obviously, it's such a tumultuous topic because H.P. Lovecraft is public domain, so everyone can use them, and it's a hot property. But it's one of those properties where you're like, and you have to wince through the issues around Lovecraft as a person, and then we have a sameness because a lot of those games have a lot of similar things. So to see games that take that idea, like Mountains of Madness, that took H.P. Lovecraft and made a party game, one of the greatest party games I've ever played. So I find that very fascinating. Keep going.
Absolutely. So anyway, it has a very, very good insanity system that plays with things like, for instance, you can cope with the unknown by making yourself drunk.
In the game or in real life?
In the game.
All right.
But if you do, then something bad is going to happen afterwards, because alcohol is bad for you in excess. And the same goes with drugs. You can do drugs, but drugs are bad for you. So you can cope with whatever unknown it is that you're facing a lot more easily, but then later on it's going to be very problematic for you, and you will have an awful lot of issues. So how are you going to balance that?
Right.
So that game, I did get a copy, so I am very much looking forward to that one. And I'm not going to go through every single interview I went to, because otherwise I'm going to be here forever. And I, of course, focus mostly on Asian games because I think that is where the future lies. I think we are seeing a lot more Euro games, which are wonderful and fantastic as they may be, and deservedly getting an awful lot of attention. But I think the best ideas are coming from Asia. So I spent a whole morning on Friday on the booth of my friend Smooch Chen, the Taiwan board game design company, where I saw firstly, the realized company of Taiwan Night Market. Brilliant game that I saw the prototype last year. It looked absolutely delightful, really, really cool. And it's a game about going to the market in Taiwan at night, specifically at night. So it has a betting system where you can jump ahead of the queue, but then you may be missing on some dishes that people may be cooking at a slower pace. It is a really, really amazing game. Namatatai, I think it was called. Oh my God,
No, my game's called Naramata.
No. This is a completely different game altogether. But let me find the name because I don't want to make even bigger hash. Matatahai. Now, this is a abstract two-people strategy game based on Go.
Fascinating.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Okay. The author, the designer, I said to him, Go is I love Go. I spent years playing Go, but it's such an intense, long, and completely ridiculously large game that it becomes very inaccessible. So I decided to take the basic mechanics of Go and make a completely different game called Matatahai. And it's a game in which two tribes fight each other. And you have to do, just like in Go, surround your enemy, except that your enemy is going to have a power and your enemy is going to be able to accrue energy crystals to make themselves even more powerful. So there is this ensuing battle with 4 or 5 different layers of tactical complexity that go on top of each other and allow you to create some really cool combos to defeat your enemy and to take advantage of the weaknesses of the board. It is so gorgeously produced, so beautifully produced. I fell absolutely in love with the game. They only brought 41 copies to the show.
I imagine they didn't last.
I bought one just like that. I said, I don't care about any other game in this show yet. I need to have this. I am going to take this with me. So I took the copy.
So, and where is it? Is that the game you just took out just now?
No.
Oh. No. So it's an abstract game based off of Go.
Yes.
Does it have? Can you play Go with it, or is it a game that's just based off of Go but not a Go game? Because obviously, one of my favorite games that have come out. As it turns out, I probably got a chance to play it. Oh boy, what was it called? Dragon Castle. That was a Dragon Castle. So Dragon Castle is basically based on Mahjong, but it gives you a complete set of Mahjong tiles, so you can still play Mahjong.
Right. The answer is yes and no. You can play Go, but it's not really Go. I mean, you can play Go because at the end of the day, what you have to do in Go is to surround your enemy with your own pieces. Mm-hmm. So here you have to do the same. You have your tribe, you put it on the grid, and then you have to try to surround them. But each piece is going to have a level of power. So you have to be with the pieces around it. You have to have more power. That is it. But then again, you add level of complexities because each piece is going to have a different level of power. Then you can buy some energy points. The board itself has some blocked tiles that you can buy with energy that if you buy gives you some tactical advantage. But if you do, then you may not have the power you need to power up your tribe to destroy your enemy. So there's an awful lot to think about. It's a lot more accessible than Go because it is smaller. but it's just so beautiful. So I'm looking forward to that one, big time. War and Right was another game that caught my eye, and this is a Second World War based game where you have to. It's a roll and write kind of game, but they call it War and Write. The one thing I liked about this game, because I didn't particularly feel enthralled by it, to be honest with you, to the point that I didn't get a copy of it.
Okay.
But the one thing that caught my eye is that it is based on real life, World War II, of course, but the art direction is not a serious art direction, as in, grave art direction. It's a very light-hearted kind of manga-looking art direction with very bright, vibrant, and bright colors. And when I asked them about that, they said, "Well, this is a game that's children can play, and we don't want children to be put off by having too serious an art direction. So we decided to go with this more cartoony sort of style because we want this game to reach as many people as possible." And I thought, okay, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. I felt that was well worth it. Bubble King. Oh my goodness.
Marble King?
Bubble.
Oh, Bubble King.
Bubble King.
Bubble
King. Bubble tea?
Of course I do.
Okay. Well, this is a game about making bubble tea.
That's it.
That's it. And the thing is that it's incredibly simple. It's a party game. It's a little thing that you can play in 5 minutes. And you have all your cards looking down, and you have your cards with your recipes, and you just need to go through the cards, find the ingredients, and the first person to complete 5 bubble teas is the Bubble King.
Bubble King.
That's it. That is the game, except that if you have a bubble tea to go, you cannot look at what ingredients you have already put down there. So you take the ingredient and put it down. To another ingredient, put it down. If you make a mistake because you have forgotten what ingredients you had in there, and when you have 4 bubble teas at the same time, it can be quite tricky, then that thing goes away. And you have to start again. So it's a party game. But what I liked about it is that the simplicity of the mechanics is so ridiculous. It's a peekaboo sort of game. Find a hidden card. But it was so funny, so much fun to play. So that was another very, very good game. I also managed to see the prototype, going a bit away from Asia, the prototype of the Horror in the Orient Express game that Chaosium is going to bring to crowdfunding very soon, based, of course, on the Horror on the Orient Express iconic Call of Cthulhu adventure. I interviewed one of the designers, and the only thing I have to say that I didn't that game that I think they should reconsider is that it's fiendishly difficult. There are 5 ways to lose and only 1 way to win. And, well, I was told I have played this prototype already 50 times and only won once. And I thought, I don't think that is going to be a very satisfying experience by way too many people. So this needs to be brought down a notch. However, the game is looking so good and so interesting. If they manage to bring down the level of difficulty just a little bit, so you can win that game every 5 to 7 times. The game plays in 2 hours. Okay? If you win because in 2 hours you have won, and if you're going to lose because within 2 hours you will have lost. That's it. So it lasts 2 hours. So it has a fair amount of replayability. But I am not a fan of hyper difficult games. So that I wouldn't be interested. But the mechanisms they have, with all the monsters that can appear, the beautifully staged train, and how it's got some movable parts So you can open the windows and close the windows to either allow monsters in or out. The way that they use dice to represent the people, so whether people become cultists or they are affected, their sanity is affected by the presence of the monsters, the number of monsters that are included in the game. It is very, very promising. Again, my only reservation is the difficulty level. I thought it was way too high. I mean, I don't want to play 50 times.
Yeah.
To win once.
Well, you know me, I have talked to death. I think one of our first conversations we might have covered was my issue with games that are too difficult. And it's something that board game companies haven't figured out. Video games figured out a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And for some strange reason, we still insist on gatekeeping this industry and our player base. And I don't know why we do that. Let it be playable by everybody. I think the worst case of this was a game called Ocean Crisis, which was a game made for kids. It was presented as kids. It was a very simplistic game. And my wife found it so insanely difficult that we didn't have a prayer. And I reached out to the company, and they were trying to defend their actions, saying that they tested it like hundreds of times. And I'm like, I don't care how many times you tested it. You made a conscious decision to make this game intractable to children that are usually easily discouraged. Why would you not make? And that's why I always had problems with Mice and Mystics, and why Stuffed Fables is such a superior game using the exact same system, because they made Stuffed Fables more enjoyable to play. And this is another reason why when they came out with Lord of the Rings app-assisted board game, adventure game, they eventually had to wilt to people going, hey, can we enjoy playing your game? Because we don't like the fact that we're racing call all the time and missing all the side content. So they went and put in an adventure mode as an update to the app that allowed people to actually enjoy the game. And the fact that some people still haven't figured this out,
it
baffles the mind.
Exactly. So we'll see what they do with them. Then the following day, on Saturday, I went to see the people from Mandu Games, and I am kicking myself because they had already sold out of their 3 games that I was interested in. Veil of Eternity, Val Helsing versus Dracula, and the one that I really wanted, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde versus Scotland Yard.
Is this based off of the Scotland Yard game that already exists?
Nope.
Okay.
Completely different one. But if I tell you that name of the game, what do you think is going to be? Tell me what kind of game you think that is.
Well, just based on my biases, because of other games that are similar, I would think it would be a one versus many, where people are trying to catch Jekyll and Hyde in Scotland Yard, with the potential weirdness that maybe 2 players control Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Now you've hit on something there. You were way off up until then.
Of course.
But
that was my thing, is that if you're dealing with 2 personalities in one person, then my gut would say at some point some mechanic involves you playing two people. I've seen that before. I don't know what game it was, where you're oh wait before you, what was the game called? Where you're playing different aspects of somebody's personality. Oh, like it was a cooperative game based off of a movie franchise. I know Planet of the Apes plays off of that, where you're playing the different variations of one person's personality. Planet of the Apes did that, but I could have sworn there was another game where everyone was playing aspects of one person's personality. Anyway, go on.
No idea. Anyway, this is a cooperative 2-players game.
All right.
I was not expecting that. And you were absolutely right in that each player is going to control one of the personalities. So one player is going to control Dr. Jekyll and the other one is going to control Mr. Hyde.
Did you say it was cooperative, or is it competitive?
It is cooperative.
It'd be funny if it was competitive, though.
No, it is cooperative because the 2 players need to run away from Scotland Yard. So I thought, okay, this is just brilliant, because of course both personalities do compete against each other.
Yeah,
but you have to work together if you want to outrun the police.
and it's not semi co-op; it's full co-op.
Full co-op, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I know, yes. So that
Okay.
that I find absolutely fascinating.
Mm,
Really fascinating. You know,
mm,
whereas Dracula versus Van Helsing, I thought, okay, well, this is just a Dracula versus Van Helsing. Very good game, don't get me wrong.
mm. Yeah.
And, you know, this is about when Dracula reaches Whitby and Van Helsing has to stop Dracula from turning a number of people into vampires. If Dracula manages to turn some people into vampires by area controlling them, then
Mm.
Van Helsing loses. Otherwise, Dracula loses. So,
Have you seen the Renfield movie, by the way?
nope.
It is such a fantastic movie. You have to get past the fact that it's extremely violent, and
Renfield, okay.
it's called, yeah, it came out earlier this year. Stars Nicolas Cage as Dracula, but the film is actually a play off of codependency. The whole film is an allegory of dependency and codependent relationships and people finding ways of leaving abusive relationships.
Okay.
So it's a whole
I mean, you nearly lost me at Nicolas Cage, but you're recommending the film, so I will take a look at it just for the sake of it.
Remember, he's not the main character. He's not
Okay,
the main
I don't
character.
care, but it's
The
Nicolas
main
Cage.
character is Nicholas Hoult, who plays Renfield, because it's about escaping an abusive relationship. But I thought it was a fantastic, well made movie. Anyway, go on.
Okay, I will try that. But anyway, Ice Makes Games. These are the people who released Terrorscape. Not long ago, they had a Kickstarter. They raised $500,000 for the game. I absolutely love Terrorscape. It's an asymmetrical hide and seek game with an absolutely incredible screen, which is a whole mansion that contains even a dice tower within it. It's just so beautiful. It's just fantastic. And they did unlock an awful lot of stretch goals. That was great. We got to see the prototype of their next games, which is going to be called Epochs. And this is a game.
Epochs?
Yeah. It's a
okay.
Like, you know, Epochs. I don't know. Is a civilization game. But it's got one thing that I find interesting. It is based on real life civilizations, but it does allow you to play the civilizations the way you want. So, for instance, we know that the Huns were pretty belligerent. You can actually play them as a peace-loving herders civilization if you wanted to. You could turn the Egyptians into murderous bastards if you wanted to. You could turn the Europeans into conquerors and that's what they were. Sorry. Now, you could do that. And even though it presents itself as being a very complex game, but it actually looks very, very good. So it could be, you know, this is one to watch out for the lovers of civilization games. It should be very good. Love to see my friend Jeffrey Chia from Singapore, who's made a game called Nightmares of Sushi.
Nightmares of Sushi.
Yes, and in this game,
that might be my my punk rock band.
Okay, well, the cool thing about this game, though, of course, as the name says, you have to make sushi, and you have to make good sushi. If you reach 10 points of good sushi, you win the game. But if you make bad sushi, then you lose points. Now, the interesting thing about this game is that if you are the player who makes the worst sushi, as in having minus 10 points, you also win. So you can win.
So you have two routes of success.
Yes.
Either make the best or the worst. You can't make mediocre.
Well, you can, but you may never win, ever. But I thought that was absolutely genius. That's really funny. That's really, really funny. So I also got a copy of that. So hopefully
that was one thing about Dinosaur Island I really appreciated. One of my friends, he I think he was second place. I won the game, but he was very, very close second. And that was because if you know Dinosaur Island, it's basically Jurassic Park. And he managed to get second place by making the most dangerous island you could possibly go to. Even though like you would think the game is about trying to get people to attend, and you get points depending on how well you attend. Almost everyone who attended his park got killed every single round. but he managed to somehow get to second place through the strategy of simply not caring about the security.
Well,
And I know how he did it. It was ingenious. I was actually so impressed with him when he did that.
okay, next, Everjoy.
Everjoy.
Everjoy. Everjoy is a Vietnamese company. They have a game called Zodiac Rush.
Zodiac Rush?
Yes. It has sold over 200,000 copies in Vietnam.
Well, that's insane.
That
Good
is
for
insane.
them.
Now, do you know how they've done that?
I don't know.
Cross media. That game is supportable. It's based on a popular comic book,
Mhm.
and it is supported also by an anime series, YouTube series.
Oh,
So the whole thing is cohesive. So the game plays with the characters from the comic book and the series, and is a real-time, super fast-paced, very chaotic, grab your gems sort of game. Looks beautiful, and I thought the fact that they have actually managed to maximize sales and exposure with combining, media is absolutely brilliant. I know the companies have tried it. I know that Modifius is trying now with cohorts of Cthulhu, and they're going to do an awful lot of cross-media work with them, including series and what have you. They have big plans. I need to talk to Chris about that. They have big plans. But this, I mean, selling 200,000 copies of a game, I cannot imagine anybody who would not want to do that.
wow, yeah. Okay.
I also went to see Japanime.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, okay. Because that's a company I do know very well.
Well, they came with a game called Sushi Boat. As you can see, food is big with Asian games. And this is a game.
I think I knew about this.
This is a game about getting sushi, piling up sushi plates to make points. The interesting thing about this game is that the production is just absolutely incredible. You really have a boat that, even though it's made of cardboard, it looks and feels like it's made of wood.
Yeah, it looked. I'm on their mailing list, so I've been keeping track of it. So I was really happy you got a chance to see that. Yeah, it looks very good.
Wow.
It looks.
You put your pieces in that track and you push, and it moves precisely, which is important because if you have to move the whole chain of sushi by one, everything moves by one. But if you have to move by three, everything moves by three. Nothing is going to become muddled in the line. And it's so smooth. It's just, I don't know how they have engineered that, but my God, is amazing. And Manny.
Yeah, because you have to measure it perfectly for the design of the boat and also the discs themselves that you're pushing in.
Correct. And also, it has a few spaces where all the sushi in there are hidden. So there's a tiny little bit of memory. There's a tiny little bit of memory that you have to remember what's in there. And with so many different types of sushi and maki available, it is not easy. So that is another game that people should look up to, because it's just so big, massive wow. Big, massive wow.
It was actually fascinating to me because it's one of those situations where I look at it and I go, crap, this is a good idea.
Very good.
What are if anyone knows about if you've just had sushi in certain places, you gotta know that one of the most popular formats of sushi is this boat train format where the sushi moves on plates that comes by you. I've been to one where it rides on water. A new one just opened up in Vancouver where it's on a bullet train that comes by. And I've actually had it. The first time I saw it was actually in China, and they add up all your little plates and so forth. In fact, one of the best sushi meals I've ever had was on one of those. It was also the cheapest meal I ever had. I had a stack of plates about yay high for two people. It was $9 because this is China, and I was with a Chinese girlfriend. But yeah, it's the moment I saw that, I went, crap, what a good idea. I wish I thought of that.
It really is very, very, very good. Then I met a Japanese company, who were very kind.
Well, I hope they all were kind. If they're,
to give me this game called Ito.
Ito.
Yeah, link your numbers and your thoughts. Now,
Fascinating.
Arclight is a very interesting company because they organize a convention in Japan, a games convention in Japan, which is basically the Spiel of Asia. They get in there 1,400 exhibitors. And they want to make it more international. They're usually exhibitors from Asia, and they want more, Western exhibitors to come. So they say, can you please tell everyone about our convention? And I say, yes, don't worry, I will tell everyone about your convention. Hopefully it will become mega super duper huge because you deserve it. Why on earth not? Now, Hobby Japan was a lovely bunch of people, absolutely delightful, and they are coming out with the Final Fantasy VII board game.
Hey, all right. There's so much that you could do in that IP. Like, there's so much you could do.
Well, what they're doing is a 2-player kind of fighting game where you are going to be playing with the characters or the main characters of Final Fantasy VII, the remake.
Yeah, I assume. Yeah, they were making around with the remake.
Correct.
Just a 2-player fighting game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing you could do.
I was surprised to see that. I was expecting that you were going to have something a bit bigger with minis and something to celebrate these absolutely ridiculous combos and these cut scenes that sometimes were up to 10 minutes.
One of the most
long.
famous games of all time. Yeah.
So I don't know why they've gone for that, but it's a fairly simple game. I only saw the prototype. The illustrations, as you can imagine, look absolutely beautiful. The game looked simple enough, so I don't know if they're just trying to make it really accessible or if they're just trying to milk the cow of Final Fantasy VII. So we'll have to wait and see. But it was a pretty interesting game, and considering that Hobby Japan is the largest, games magazine in Japan, and it's a big company. They're pretty huge. Who knows what they're going to come out with? Unfortunately, by the time I arrived, again, they have completely sold out of pretty much every game they had at the show.
Oh my God, I imagine,
that has been something that's been pervasive of the show as a whole. I've seen.
So people aren't bringing enough stock, or it's just so popular.
No, I think it's been so popular. For instance, Godot Games, my friends Stefan and Andreas Godot with Among Cultists. They have sold over 1,000 games in those 4 days.
Wow.
They had 250 games per day, and they sold out every single day by 3:00. I didn't get to buy a copy of Among Cultists, so that's how ridiculous it was. On Saturday, Mandu Game had already sold out. Taiwan Night Market had already sold out. So people were really gagging to buy games.
No kidding. Just for the local people alone, like international people have to worry about trying to transport it, but that's insane.
Yeah.
Was Minitech there?
Who?
Minitech. They're a Chinese company. They do miniature-based games, and their Macross Dogfight game was the game that I worked on. I worked on 2 games with them. I worked on their Robotech. I worked on the manual for Robotech, and I also rewrote their manual for their Dragon Ball Z miniature fighting game.
I don't think they were. I cannot see them here. Minitech.
All right.
No.
Just curious.
My Mini Factory, yeah, but not Minitech. But they are the ones that do Titan Forge. So anyway, I don't think they were. But to be perfectly honest, there were so many companies. One of the things about Spiel that I like the most is that I go to Facebook, to the board games groups, and people keep coming up with, my loot from Spiel, my loot from Spiel, my loot from Spiel. And I keep saying, I didn't see that game. I didn't see that game. I didn't see that game. Yeah. Or that. And there are like 100 games I haven't seen. because I just didn't get a chance. So I met.
How many days is it again?
4. 5 if you're
Yeah.
Chris. So per 4.
And you had 5.
Yeah. So I met my friend Lisbeth Boss, who works for a Spanish company called AGR. Now, you know how cagey I am about Spanish companies. Don't want to get involved. But these are manufacturers.
Yep.
And I was genuinely blown away by the quality of their productions. But not just the quality, but the prices. Literally, they can
Prices
write
of the games or their production, like their production process. They're trying to entice people to
the whole
use
thing.
them to make games.
The whole
Okay.
thing. They are as accessible, economically speaking, as China.
That's a big claim.
They really are not expensive at all. But furthermore, it also stops, for instance, if you have to produce in Europe, it stops all the customs malarkey that you have to go through.
If they even came close to it. Like if there was a Canadian manufacturer that could make that claim, that's it. Like that's one of the biggest things. Like if there was a Vancouver one that said, we'll get within 5 or 10% of China, even if you're 15, 20% over China, I would jump at it.
Even if you just save the amount of money that you have to pay to get your games from China, that already makes it worth it.
Yeah.
So these people do that. They do minis, they do transparent cards, they do absolutely everything, and they're going to expand their range of services. So one of the things that I was discussing with her was, okay, so let's assume, that, for instance, my friend Chris, he makes a Kickstarter and he has sold 700 games in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help? And she said, well, we can help by printing the game and manufacturing the game, but also we can do fulfillment. So,
oh, come on. Really?
Yes. You don't need to do anything. You just send
we were just talking about that.
Send us the files and we'll take care of the rest. We'll tell you how much it is. And we will send the games anywhere in Europe without you having to worry about tax or shipping.
Yes. I mean, that justifies if you're making a board game and you have a ton of European people, you could afford to print the game in 2 different locations. Mm-hmm. If the game was exactly the same, you could have it. I mean, it's one of those situations where, and we were just talking as of last week about holistic companies that can do multiple things, and being able to print a game and do the distribution, that cuts a big chunk of money. That means that saves you $3,000 or $4,000, maybe $5,000-$6,000 to ship from one location to another. You do distribution. You fold in the fact that they'll even help collate games to other people, and you have it all in one studio. That would score me.
And because it doesn't stop there, they also do prototyping a la GameCrafter.
Of course.
They do have a website called Ludotopia, which used to be a Spanish thing. Now they're expanding it to English markets because they want to be a lot bigger. So if you have to do a prototype, they can take care of that for you as well in small numbers.
Nice.
So it's a company that I hope I will be able to work with. I also met the owners, and one of them was running around at the show dressed in a dinosaur costume.
What kind of dinosaur costume? Was it what are those inflated T-Rex ones?
Yes. Yes, and I thought, okay, you and I have to be friends. You have a T-Rex inflatable costume. Come on, that's amazing. So
I want to spend money and get one of those realistic dinosaur ones for like $4,000 or $5,000, where it looks like a real dinosaur, and you can just walk around scaring the crap out of people.
Well, this is more a comedy thing, but yeah, they were doing that throughout the show, and it was amazing. So seriously, I think I will be talking about them quite a lot in the future, because they can do an awful lot of good for an awful lot of people. Seriously, well worth it. And yes, the moment has come to go to Gay Sauna.
So if I come over to visit you, we're playing that, by the way.
Yes, we will play this.
Oh, that's so perfect.
I have my reservations without having opened the game, because this is not my copy. This is a copy for a friend who wanted to gift it to a friend.
Okay.
It's not for me, it's for a friend.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you. Don't worry. I have a reservation, and is that you have all that space and you have that tiny little.
Yeah, the
font
text is
there.
very, very small. You could have
Very
tracked that
small.
up a little bit.
Yeah, very difficult for me to read because it's also against black, and that means that my dyslexia kicks in and lets us begin to
Yeah.
fly away. Now, this game comes with this expansion. Now,
I saw that small. I wasn't paying attention to that first time I saw that video, so I didn't know if that was an expansion or that was a smaller version of it.
well, this is called the really not safe for work visitor deck expansion. So I have absolutely no idea what it contains, apart from.
Oh, I have an idea.
So let me see if
This-
I
this
can
is-
focus the camera.
No, I see it. I see it. This is the new what was the new version of those sexy poker cards.
Something like that. I don't know. I only know, according to this, if I can possibly read it, all the thrills of visiting a gay sauna in a game you can play with your friends. Take an immersive journey into the tantalizing world of cruising at the gay sauna in this flavorful tabletop adventure game. Compete against your fellow players to see who can score the most as you traverse the enticing cruising areas. Encounter a whole host of horny visitors while being faced with random events ranging from the hot and steamy to the downright dirty. Dirty. Will you rise to the top as you bit your way through the saucy adventure, or will you be left wanting more as you're bested by your buddies? We will know when we play it, but it has that meter in the player cards.
Oh dear, how in the world? I so wish I was part of the Dice Tower right now.
Yeah, I think if you were,
I
you
would-
wouldn't be for much
I
longer.
I would do everything in my power of trying to make it as tasteful as possible, but do it in the most comedic way possible. It's like
Now, I got a prototype for their next game. And I am going to show you
Yes.
what it's called.
yes. Well, it's just not even subtle anymore.
No. As in, this unsubtle. How about that?
I'm not. It's not frozen. I'm literally like this.
Yes.
I have to reach out to that lady that was going to do my that's carrying alternative gaming. I got to reach out to her about this.
Well, for the record, for those of you humans who are listening to the podcast instead of watching the video, I need to come clean. I have a card game in my hand called Dixits.
Oh, okay. I just got the metaphor. Oh God.
No. This is not a metaphor. This is literally a game in which each player is going to have a bomb that needs to sit on dicks to stretch and take the biggest possible dick ever.
Yes, but I understand now that it is the whole name is an entire play off of the game Dixit. I just realized that Dixit is a play off of the game Dixit. Dixit. For those people who don't, there's a game called Dixit. Dixit. I would put that down in front of my friends. Guys are playing this game, and everyone's going to look at it and go, "How do you think Mike?" Oh God! Oh God! I gotta play this. I really hope it's good. I can't wait for the review.
Okay, I can tell you now, it's not a great game because in the sense of wait a second, it's not. I mean, I say it's not a great game. I mean, the rules of this. This is the rules.
A game doesn't have to have a lot of rules, but it's fine.
No. And literally playing the game is you reveal the top card, and they choose between two actions: sit or shit. You can either try to sit, or you can shit and say, "Oh no, I'm never gonna sit on that one," and then you start the game. Of course, you have to sit on the biggest possible dick because that's going to stretch, and you're gonna have some help. You're gonna have some help in the shape of loop helps. Lots of help. You can have some help in the shape of a douche, or you can have some help.
Of course.
But then you can also have that. You can have your puppy tail.
Plus ones. I don't. Plus. Okay. I only found out what that was a couple months ago. I am so bothered by the fact that I know that exists now. Plus that, and I'm also, and knowing that I know what that means, that illustration, the size of it is really bothersome because every time I now know, see, no, I'm okay with that. I understand that, but okay.
So that's the kind of game. So as you can imagine, I mean, game-wise, it's not subtle, and game-wise, it doesn't have an awful lot of depth. This is not a game that you're going to play as a campaign game.
But Exploding Kittens raised like $1 million, and that game sucks.
Correct. And the thing is, and this is getting a little bit more serious about this game. It is by far the most daring, the most subversive, and the most fuck you game. The whole show. It's a massive big middle finger to bigotry and everything else, and it takes the hell of a lot of a piss of the gay subculture of the big dicks. This concept, which, to be perfectly honest, I mean, this is because it's made by some gay people. This is a gay group of designers from Holland. They live in Amsterdam. Surprise. They're Dutch,
Is it a surprise? Is it?
They're Dutch.
Whenever if I have a display of games, right? I would have that game. I would have Gay Sauna. And I would just have it there. And if I ever did any videos in like Rodney or in front of a game collection, every single game review, like 90% of game review videos, there's a guy who's or someone who's talking in front of a camera going, in this day, we're going to be learning the 2-player play game this, and there's a wall of games. I would make sure that was there in view every single video just to see and wait for someone to go, is that what I think it is?
Well, in this case, yes, it is. And just for the record, I know this is made by a bunch of queer people. Let's not pretend for a single second that straight couples don't do this.
Oh,
okay?
No.
So please, no dishing on the queer community, because we do know what you straight people get up to as well.
Oh, Yeah.
So there. So that's the game. So I'm going to,
Or in some situations not, and you go to bed crying into your
correct.
soup.
So there you go. So that is that was Gay Sauna, which I thought it was. I just have to. I don't care what the game is like. I just have to have it because if you have the balls, seriously the balls to come out with this game to Kickstarter, Dixits is going to be crowdfunded in Kickstarter. They have already said yes to the project, and I thought, how Kickstarter something as lewd as this?
Somebody,
Absolutely.
that's gonna be on news. Oh, I'm gonna see that. That's gonna be popping up on Facebook, and people are gonna lose their minds.
Absolutely, yes. So I just thought, guys, okay, from queer to queer, sister, I'm with you. You have the balls to come out with that game and put it out there. I'll got your back. So that was Spiel for me in a well, not so nutshell, because I've been talking about it for an hour.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. I can't wait to see these videos in detail. And for obvious reasons, like I said, some when you think about games like that, for me, I haven't gotten into board games in some time, unfortunately, because everything that's happening at home. But I really wanted to, and we still have a list of about 15, 20 games that we want to get into playing. And it's too bad when I see these lists right now. For example, through my circles, through my social media, the game people have been talking about that I've been seeing a lot of is a game called Boop.
Boop.
Boop. It's called Boop.
Oh, by the way, sorry, one last thing before I forget. I also met a Japanese company, but just met them, didn't interview them or anything because we were going from one place to another. But the guy was wearing a yellow, completely covered, costume, body costume, with a golden poop on his head, and the game is called Holy Poop.
Holy Poop?
It's called, yeah. So it's a game about shit.
Well, that's not a I've seen that before. A lot. There's a lot of children's games based around poop. But that is kind of insane.
Yeah.
I saw the was it the video, the photo you have of the guys in the chicken costumes?
Oh yes, the duckies. Yeah, they were ducks.
Oh, ducks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, they were just going around. I think they were just doing promo for somebody. I don't know, but they were absolutely hilarious. So there you go. That's Spiel for me.
Well, it seems like the most interesting time. Like I said, I would love to visit sometime and get a chance to see that. It's fascinating. I mean, some of those games. I mean, I think for me, if there was a game that I would say I would go out and buy right now, would probably be the Sushi Boat game, just because I love the idea. Just on general principle, it's just a game that's very much appealing to me. But there's tons of ideas, and I like that. But I'm trying. When you made the post, like I dare somebody to make a role playing game of this, the gears. I'm not joking. The gears were turning. I'm like.
Well, the thing is, immediately somebody came with a comment of somebody that should do a live action role playing game out of this.
Well, I hate to be the one. I think at that point the line gets blurred. I think at that point it's no longer a game. You're just doing that at that point.
Might as well go to the sauna, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of those situations. You go to the sauna, and if you have a sauna, just bring one of the murder mystery games there, and then just go the rest from there. That's actually a thing. That'd be interesting.
It was really hilarious to see. I was so pleased to see them and do so well, because that booth was constantly full of people. Constantly.
I imagine so. I mean, it's especially dealing with Europe. A lot more people are strange. I cannot wait for them to show up in Gen Con.
Oh, that would be amazing if they went to Gen Con. If they allow them in Gen Con. I mean,
they have to.
In Indiana.
They have to. And if they didn't, I will absolutely scream bloody murder.
Yeah. But we're talking Indiana.
I know, but that's the thing that. Oh yeah.
Oh well, we'll see where it takes them. But I really hope that Dixit does very well, because it's such a stupid little game, but it's absolutely hilarious. So there you
Yes,
go.
it's
I will
also got
be-
the greatest name.
Yeah, I will be playtesting that game with my friends. Okay, that sounded better in my head. That sounded a lot better in my head than when it came out, didn't it? Shall we leave it here today for
I said nothing. I have said nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, this is me actually blushing for real.
Okay, you had a really good time. I see. Ah, God damn it. No.
Anyway,
You're not cutting that out, by the way.
no, I am not. I'm not
You're not
cutting that
cutting.
out. But I think we should just. I don't think I can end this episode any better than that. So I just
That's good.
let's just call it. Okay, humans. Whatever. Bye.